everybody. We are back. Olivia's in black, as usual.
What am I not? What are you wearing? A school uniform?
No.
Well, that's what it looks like. So
At least I have more than one color in my closet.
I have a lot of colors in my closet. I have black, blue black, gray,
Right.
um, dark black. I don't know.
So right. Anyways, we're here to talk about week 3. Is that the week?
4.
Week 4. Yeah, week 4. We're kept. I can't. I can't count.
Good job, bro. And I was actually here this time, so
Yeah,
I'll have a little bit more input.
which is great because a lot happened this session, so very exciting. But we'll start off once again. I think we covered a bit of the start of this week last week, but we'll start off with Landry 1 HOH. The competition was deletion dots. So everyone had to gather these colored concrete and put it in each other's tubes, and everyone started targeting Taylor immediately, which kind of becomes a trend in this game. So I
Taylor
feel
cannot catch a break.
for real. Oh my god. I really hope that like they keep getting miracles throughout this game because damn. Um, but it comes down to Landry and Star, and they were very close. But Star ends up kind of like throwing it to Landry, but Landry was already kind of in the lead anyways, so I think she would have won either way. But yeah, I kind of predicted that Star would win this competition, which I was close. He almost did. But Landry wins. And then we were supposed to have a session, then we didn't because Landry fell asleep. And there was a lot of fights that happened in that session, which again I think we covered last time. So
Yeah.
I won't go into detail in this session, but Taylor yelled at Donnie a lot and called out Star. So they were like, "Fuck it, I'm already screwed. Might as well just go balls to the wall crazy." Um, which I live for the entertainment.
Yeah.
It's very entertaining. Okay, what is our first thing to talk about after the HOH?
Um.
Taylor talks to Landry. That's like the first thing they do, and they try to clear the air with her. Um, but the vibe I got was that it didn't really Landry like didn't care. Was kind of the vibe I got. They were kind of like,
Yeah.
yeah. But they're like, yeah, Spencer was the one who like spread the lies and all this. Like, I was never targeting you. It was Spencer told me that you were targeting me, and so that's why I targeted you. Then Landry lied straight up her ass and was like, I was never targeting you. That Spencer's just making up lies to pit us against each other, which isn't true. Landry was very vocal after that whole Taylor incident that week before about wanting to target Taylor. So um, I was like, girl, okay.
You know what? A girl's gotta lie sometimes.
Yeah. But the way she said it, I was like, I don't know if Landry believes this herself, and she's just like misremembering the events in her head,
She's
or
just she's just a really convincing liar. She's done it a lot.
God.
She has a lot of practice.
That's half the time when Landry's lying. I'm like, does she know that she's lying, or does she genuinely
Yeah.
believe what she's saying right now?
It's because she sounds just like it's so matter of fact when she
Yeah.
speaks to people. Like she's just always telling the truth. And you're like, okay, Landry.
Yeah.
She's always lying though.
Yeah, all the time. Oh my god. But yeah, right afterwards, I think she like makes some comment about like I don't care, bitch or whatever. I don't know, something along the lines of that. A classic
Yeah.
quippy Landry remark. Um, but
I could probably find it in the live feeds what she
probably.
said.
But Taylor really starts throwing Spencer under the bus this week because they're like, yeah, Spencer was the one who started all this drama, and it's all Spencer's kind of fault. Um, so poor Spencer, but Taylor's kind of got to do what they got to do to survive at this point. Um, and then Landry talks with a bunch of people one on one. nothing's really super notable. I find just she kind of settles on Taylor and Spencer, which is what we kind of knew from last week was going to be her plan, and she's just like, I originally I thought that she was like, I want Taylor gone 100%, but she was kind of like Spencer or Taylor, whichever one, I don't care as long as it's one of
It
them.
it seemed like she was like leaning more towards Taylor, but yeah, it kind of evolved into either one.
Yeah. So maybe that conversation with Taylor did maybe sway her a little bit, just to like maybe be like either or instead of just strongly Taylor.
Mhm.
But yeah, that was kind of her viewpoint on it. And then we talked about the Endermen because they really fell apart this week. I don't know how they're gonna be moving forward.
It's the end of the Endermen.
Pretty
They in
much.
fact did not make it to the end.
No, they did not.
Well, a couple of them might still,
Maybe.
but
We
one
can
of
only
them.
hope. We can only hope. Um, but George and Dom were very much like, okay, we need to start distancing ourselves from Taylor. So they very much did that a lot this week, and they were kind of throwing Taylor under the bus a bit, being like, oh, well, they didn't necessarily say anything bad about Taylor, but they were very much like, yeah, Taylor's the target, and we're good with that, and all that.
Mhm.
Very quickly, like every conversation they had with people, like, oh yeah, Taylor's the target, right? um, no, they didn't even like try to like deflect or play devil's advocate or anything, which fair, they're trying to save themselves. But
Yeah, it's just unfortunate for Taylor.
yeah, very unfortunate. And I feel like Taylor really felt it this week of distancing, because their biggest allies are distancing themselves from them, and then the other side of the house is targeting them, and so they're kind of very alone. And they've kind of
Yeah.
voiced that talking with people this season has been kind of hard, and they are not enjoying it, which sucks.
Yeah. It's pretty unfortunate because I don't really see a way for Taylor to get out of this in
Yeah,
the long term
exactly.
unless they just win every competition.
Yeah,
Just
which
sucks.
with their previous track record, I don't think is going to happen. But we can
They need to
hope for a
summon
miracle.
their inner Sunny Van.
Exactly. Um, yeah. So, however, they are very excited to lead into kind of that villain persona, I guess. And just kind of be like, "Fuck it, I'm not winning anyway, so might as well, go crazy, before I inevitably leave," which I hope brings some entertaining TV. Um,
Good enough for me.
exactly. Um, but they might have a chance going into next week, considering who wins HOH. But we'll get to that. Um, and yeah, then we get to the nomination ceremony, and Landry nominates Taylor and Spencer. And she gives this big speech about how I don't trust you. You're the head of the snakes. We need to get you out, whatnot. Which, okay, sure. Um,
She had her moment.
yeah. I just find it funny that Taylor and them are being painted as kind of the mastermind when I feel like Landry, Star, and Donnie are really the ones who are running the games. So,
Yeah.
but anyways, we then get into the veto competition, and this was probably my favorite part of the whole session. Um, but it is the shipwreck scrabble. I change it every time. I
I
say
don't
it.
like Shipwreck Scrabble. It needs to go back to Scramble.
Okay, maybe I'll retcon the name and call it that. But there were spelling words, finding letters and spelling words.
Yeah.
And Taylor was the
Yeah.
only smart one and Googled the character limit on the board was 12. So they Googled 12-letter words and started spelling it.
Hmm.
Everybody else was kind of just finding letters and then spelling from what they found, where I feel like
Yeah.
Taylor's strategy was a little smarter to work backwards, be like 12-letter word, and I'll look for those specific letters. Um, However, it did almost screw them over at the end because they had a lot of trouble finding a Z for their word. So
They found it,
they found
and
it,
they spelled jeopardizing, wasn't it?
yeah, which was
Yeah.
really great. Um,
12 letters,
yeah. And
and
Spencer was really
yeah,
close.
yeah,
Once
he
again,
was.
Spencer is proving to be a comp beast. He was very close with friendships. One
11
letter off.
letters. Yep.
And he did
Yeah, I know. Taylor's fate just came down to one letter.
right. And Spencer did ring in first, so maybe if he made it friendships or something. Oh my god.
Wasn't it friendships?
Yeah, I was just saying like S, like he had an extra S, to pull a Travis and
Oh,
do
well then it
something
wouldn't
stupid.
be extra small.
I'm a-
Travis moment.
exactly. Um, and then
Speaking of Travis moment, can we do an honorable mention to Oliver's word in the shipwreck scramble?
teethies,
He spelled teethies. Teethys.
which is not a word. Um,
Which I get he didn't want to win that comp, but what? What is a teethies?
right? Like I would understand if it was teeth or something or teeth toothy, but like teethies.
Teethies Nation. I'm kind of Team Oliver. I've kind of been enjoying him this week.
Yeah, me too. Oliver was really just kind of a non-component for me these last few weeks, but this week he's been really funny. So I'm excited to see where this next week leads him. And then we had Dominic, who very much threw this competition. What was his word again?
What
It
did
was
he?
it was like a short 5-letter word or something.
I put it
Um,
in chat.
but
Hold on. Let me find
he
it.
had a pretty short word.
Oh,
Believe.
it was believe. Yeah.
Yeah. He had a short word and he rang in pretty fast, and I was like, "You're ringing in with such a short word, okay?"
Yeah, I believe he rang in first.
Yeah. And there was still like quite some time left on the clock, so I was surprised at that. But then I was like, he's probably throwing because then he'd have to pick between his two allies, and even if he did use the veto, then George would go up, which is another one of his allies. So I understand why he threw that. And we had Donnie, who did fairly average at this comp. He was there.
He was there.
he was there. But then Taylor won, and it was really great. They were screaming, I was screaming, we were all celebrating.
I think after the veto comp, they said like they had some one-liner ready for if they had won, but they just forgot all about it when they won because they were so happy and they were just screaming.
Yeah.
I was so excited.
Me too, because Taylor was dead in the water. But they pulled out that win. And it's funny because Landry like went AFK like the just before Taylor won, and then when she came back, she's like, "Okay, who won?" And they're like, "Taylor," and she was like, "Oh, okay."
Oh. I love Landry, but sometimes her plans have to be foiled.
Yeah. But she was still like, "Okay, then Spencer's going." Which unfortunate for Spencer. And then she nominated George. As the replacement. She was she was telling George about it, and it was a very awkward conversation because
Oh
George.
yeah, I think I remember what it was. It was George and Landry talking, and George is like, "I don't want to go up," and Landry is like, "I can guarantee you won't go home." George, "Are you sure?" Landry, "Yeah." George, I don't know." Landry, "Okay." And then she just leaves.
No.
I mean, because there's not really much he can do about it. It's not
Yeah.
like his decision. So,
Yeah.
like,
Oh my
okay.
god. But they talked later in the HOH room. This was really funny because after Landry left that call, she went to the HOH room. And she was gonna drag George in there to talk, but Spencer very quickly joined the HOH room, and he goes, "Hi," and then Landry immediately, the second Spencer said hi, doesn't even respond to him, just drags him out of the call and says, "Get out of my HOH room, bitch." It was so fucking funny.
I love her so much. I love her so much. I love her so much.
Oh my god.
Get out of my HOH room, bitch.
It was so funny. She didn't even say anything to Spencer. I was like, oh my god. And then she
So
drags
good.
George in to talk with him more, and yeah, it's just kind of a extended version of that conversation of you're going up, but you're not going home. And to guarantee and ensure that to kind of gain George's trust, I guess, and to guarantee that he was going to stay, she decides to host a little house meeting. Um, but before we get to the house meeting, I think we should talk about Landry met with the Big Five Star Alliance, which contains Donnie, Star, Masterfy, and Oliver, along with herself, and they kind of all met to discuss who they wanted to nominate. And they decided on George together. But Donnie was very adamant about wanting Dominic to go up and maybe even go home, which I think was interesting.
Yeah, I'm gonna need Donnie to take several seats because he cannot be coming for my winner pick, Dominic. That
Yeah,
cannot happen.
yeah. But to be fair, Donnie is pretty smart. He's like, I think Dominic's playing both sides, and he kind of
Yeah.
is. So
It would definitely be smart for people to start targeting Dominic because like
yeah.
nobody really is, and he's kind
Mhm.
of good in good with everybody, and I definitely see him making it to the end.
Yeah, me too. But everyone else was kind of like, George will be safe, and so they did that. It was the easy route. And then Landry hosts her little house meeting to call out Spencer. Um, I don't even. Do you have the transcript? Did you write exactly what she said? Um,
I did not.
okay.
I don't think I did, but I vaguely or no, I don't vaguely. I remember when I heard the words house meeting and Landry in the same sentence. I was like, oh, girl, like you've already been playing messy. Do not blow your game up even more.
Right.
And I mean, yeah,
Landry does not care about jury management, does not care about
no,
threat management or
no,
anything. She's just putting more and more eyes on her and making the target on her bigger and pissing more people off. Um,
yeah.
so
And I mean, it's entertaining, and I feel like the house meeting ended up being pretty anticlimactic, but
yeah.
still, like, you never want to call a house meeting unless you're Dan Giesling. But if you're anyone else,
Yeah.
don't do it. And I have a little bit of what I wrote during the house meeting. So basically, she pulls everybody into the living room, and she starts talking about how Taylor was her initial target. And then the veto happened, and then some information about Spencer was revealed to her, and revealed him as a snake and a liar. And she just was like, I want everybody to know I'm not targeting anybody but Spencer. So, and then
Nice.
I wrote this quote. I think we all know where I lie in this house, and that is that I don't like Spencer. All I want for right now is for Spencer to go home. And then she offers him a chance, like, to defend himself. She's like, Spencer, if you want to say anything, go ahead, but just know that I will rebuttal.
Spencer very quickly just goes, nope.
Yeah, he's like, no, thank you. Which I don't know. If I was Spencer, I feel like I would have been like, "What information are you talking
Right?
about? Like, please share.
Right?
Like, you wanted to call a
Right?
house meeting. Like, please, we're all
Exactly.
here. We're all friends. Please
Right?
share this information. Like,
Like,
if I'm about to go home anyway."
exactly. You have one foot out the door. I was like, what is this information? Who did you get it from? Because,
Yeah,
and if you don't say, then you're just making shit up.
yeah. Oh man.
Uh, but Spencer, just I don't think handles pressure very well. I think he cracks under those conversations a lot. As we've
Yeah,
seen when
he
Donnie
does.
confronted him last week about who his replacement nominee would be, he very much buckled under that pressure, which screwed everything over, and ultimately is what led to Taylor being targeted, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
uh,
Oh
but
man.
yeah,
Gotta love Spencer.
yeah. I love everyone this season. I never want anyone to go, but someone
Hmm.
has to.
Especially this next eviction, I feel like it's gonna be really tough.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Uh, I kind of wanted Oliver to go home this week because he was like the least.
What?
He had the least interesting story and gameplay to me. I was like, he's just kind of there. But he
I
won.
mean,
He won HOH,
I
and I
guess.
think he has a chance to do something interesting. And I think now
Mhm.
I'll be more like, okay, now I'm a little more interested to see what Oliver will do now that he can't just like go under the radar and
Yeah.
just not do anything. But he's gonna draw a line in the sand, and I'm excited to see where that takes him. Um,
Really quick, I just wanted to circle back to Spencer and
mhm.
bring up this conversation that he had with with Donnie, like towards the beginning of the session before nominations. Spencer's gameplay is so interesting to me. I'll just say that. Interesting. The way he like chooses to talk to people. Donnie and him are in a private VC. And Donnie starts asking Spencer about like what happened with Taylor last week and Landry and why they were fighting. um and Spencer is just so awkward here. He's just silent and Donnie's like, "Hello, like can you hear me?" And Spencer's like, "Yeah." And then, and then Donnie's like asking again like what happened last week and Spencer's like, I don't know, fair enough. And Donnie keeps pressing him and Spencer is not giving him anything, like nothing. And then Donnie's like trying, like extending an olive branch, and he's like, "We need to trust each other. Like we can't be withholding information." Spencer, fair enough. And then Donnie's like, this is verbatim. And Donnie's like, "I know you know something I don't. Like clearly someone told you to do something because you didn't want to use the veto, and then you all of a sudden like Spencer was telling Donnie to use the veto." Spencer goes completely silent. And Donnie literally says, "Spencer, respond to me. What are you doing? What are you doing?" And Spencer goes, "Chillin'." And Donnie says, "All right then," and leaves the VC. I swear to God, that's exactly how that conversation happened. What are you doing, Spencer?
That's like that Twitter video where that guy is like interviewing that other guy with like the earpiece or whatever, and he's like asking him stupid questions, and then the guy's like, "That's a stupid question. I'm not answering it." He's like, "But you have to." He's like, "No." That's what that. That's what that interaction reminds me of.
Oh my gosh, I don't understand. Like,
Oh
say
my God.
something.
Right?
It was so awkward.
Right?
So awkward. Like every second, Donnie would be like, "Hello, can you hear me?" And Spencer would be like, "Hello."
Right? Like,
Yeah, I can hear you.
I understand you don't want to answer the question, but like say something to either redirect the
Literally.
conversation or like just give
Literally.
a non-answer, you know, of just I don't know, a lot of stuff.
Like,
Right?
throw Taylor under the bus.
Right?
They're going home this week anyway. Be like, "Taylor was manipulating me. I didn't want to do it, but they were," I don't know, like
Right?
something.
Yeah.
Give him something because
Right?
it was just so bad. And like, I don't know. Like, if you're in danger of going on the block this week and that's how you're talking to people, not even like trying to gain their trust to gain one of their votes potentially,
Yeah.
I just,
Especially
Spencer,
yeah.
yeah, I don't.
Especially because Donnie and Spencer did kind of have a working relationship before this. It's kind of like they're like, "Oh, we're comp beasts. We gotta have each other's back. Let's look out for each
Yeah.
other." And then Spencer just kind of threw that all away.
Donnie was trying so hard. Like, he actually genuinely seemed like he wanted, Spencer and him to connect on some level. I don't know, like,
Mhm.
if work together is the right word exactly, but he was trying. And Spencer just laid down and died. And I was
Yeah.
like, why?
Right?
Go, girl, give us nothing.
Right? Even if you didn't want to like call out Taylor and like call out your Enderman alliance until like it was like down to like the wire and it was you against them, just you could have like just gave something of a lot of people said stuff to me,
Yeah.
and I don't want to throw anyone under the bus quite yet, but that's what
Mhm.
I felt like needed to happen or whatever bullshit lie he was saying where he was like, I think people are gonna like on flip and vote Masterfy out instead of Hero was what he was claiming
Yeah.
to doing. Like if you wanted to run with
All
that
Spencer
lie,
needed to do was say there were a lot of voices in my ear
yeah,
and blame it on Taylor. That's it.
yeah,
That's all he needed to do. Because Taylor's game was gone anyway.
right,
I mean, I do
yeah,
think Spencer would have ended up going home anyways with Taylor winning the veto, but
yeah,
I don't know. Like, I personally, I would have tried.
right. Or even like try to like put a wedge between Donnie and like Star or Landry or something. It'd be like Landry was telling me some like stuff about you or something like that, or just like lie straight out of your ass to like fuck with Donnie.
Yeah, like pull all of the tactics, all the guns need to
Right?
be brought out when you know that you're probably going up this week, and
Yeah,
that if the number one target doesn't go, you're going, which ended up
exactly.
happening.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um.
I think Spencer has been like really entertaining this season, but I just wish he
Yeah.
tried
Yeah.
harder and fought to
Yeah.
stay.
He's not a very quick thinker, and yeah, under the pressure
I can relate.
he just collapses.
Yeah, I definitely feel it. Like I don't blame him at all. Big Brother is
Yeah,
tough, even virtual Big Brother.
right.
Like
Especially
I know
when
I was
you're
so awkward
es-
in some
yeah.
conversations last season.
Well, to be fair, you everyone else was giving you nothing. You were it was kind of like you were the Donnie and everyone else was the Spencer in that situation.
I felt like Donnie the entirety of season one, especially if I was talking to Blue. Like when Blue on HOH, this is a tangent, but when Blue on HOH and I was trying to talk to him, like, am I going up? Am I going up? I was Donnie and he was Spencer.
Pretty much, yeah.
Blue, what are you doing? Chilling. All right then.
Oh my god. Oh yeah. Um, but yeah, I do feel bad for Spencer, especially because he's the youngest one in the cast, I think. So I understand
Mhm,
that like more awkwardness in talking with people. But
definitely.
I still enjoyed having Spencer around. He was nice, funny. And I liked after he got evicted this week, we kind of like hung out with him a bit after the session, just
He's a
talking and
genuine guy.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he's nice. But yeah, I wish he would have fought harder. Um,
Maybe he can be on Aether Big Brother Second Chance.
maybe. Oh my god. But we moving on. After the whole house meeting of Landry calling out Spencer, she nominates George as the replacement. And then that's kind of it for the week. Everyone's kind of like, yeah, we're getting out Spencer. I know Spencer does some campaigning to people, but it was kind of too little, too late. And
Definitely.
I didn't really listen into all of his campaign, but it just kind of was a lot of nothing. I think it was like, keep me safe and I'll be good with you or whatever, which is, you
Yeah,
know,
it was a lot of yeah,
generic.
I'll pay you back, or I'm gonna be going after Landry, not you, or
Yeah,
just stuff like that. But I feel
right?
like Spencer had already like dug himself a grave. Like
Yeah,
this was weeks in the making. It wasn't just this session
yeah,
and his decisions.
yeah.
Also, I would like to bring up George for a second
Hmm.
because George was somebody who's like been high on my host rankings for a while.
Yeah,
What
same.
what has he done recently? Like have I
Yeah,
just not been paying attention? Like what
no,
is George
I
doing?
I felt exactly the same. Like near the
Is
start,
he like was he even there this session? I
he
don't remember.
was.
He was?
He was. But yeah,
Wasn't
the
he?
first 2 weeks, everyone really liked George. Everyone was really vibing with George. But now he's just
Mhm.
very, very under the radar. Like
Yeah.
that, we forget he
He's
existed.
definitely floating his
Yeah.
way to the end.
Like
But
it feels like Dominic's kind of doing a lot of the heavy lifting right now and kind of starting and initiating these alliances that George is initially being left out of, but then Dominic is kind of like
yeah,
just pulling him in by association. Of George is never
no,
officially in these alliances, but everyone's like, okay, yeah, we'll like protect George.
if Dominic is Derek, George is Cody. Because Dominic
Oh
is
God.
definitely the one that's like pulling all the strings and like
Yeah.
creating one-on-one bonds with people, and like
Right.
people generally like George, and I don't think he's going to be a target anytime soon. But
Hmm.
I feel like, and I know a lot of people hate the word resume, but I feel like he needs to start building his resume because
Yeah.
if he does get to the end with Dominic, which I think is a is a possibility,
Hmm.
it might happen. He is never going to win, and I
Yeah.
think he won't win next to a lot of people in this cast.
Yeah. Right. I'm
So
like.
he needs to start making his
Mhm.
own moves, his own connections.
Right?
Yeah.
Even if he was just like there with Dominic doing these, then like at least that's something. But I'm surprised it's
Mhm.
Dominic who's the one kind of being involved in all these alliances and not George because George had such that good social game and connection with people at the start.
Mhm.
Um, I'm surprised it's now kind of flipped and Dominic's kind of the main social person in that group. Um,
Yeah, like George had such a strong start this season, and I feel like I he's kind of just let it fall flat,
yeah.
in my opinion. Like
Mhm.
he's not doing any upkeep
Yeah.
for his game. I
Mhm.
feel like the only like contributions to his game really have been what Dominic is doing.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
he needs to step it up. Come
He's
on,
a
George.
right now. His role in the game is just Dominic's ally, Dominic's partner.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, if he continues just like being under the radar, I think right now, especially with two big targets in the house, I think that's fair for George to do. That's understandable. Like, you don't need to put yourself in that position. But
Yeah.
he's not even doing anything behind the scenes to start setting himself up for future
Mhm.
weeks. And if he
Exactly.
doesn't
Yeah.
start doing anything like that, like it will be hard to climb back up when you're at the bottom. Um,
Yeah. I think what he's doing right now is really good for his short-term game because he doesn't
yeah.
really need to be doing anything right now. He's in a really good position. As I said, he's probably not going to be a target anytime soon, but in
Mhm,
terms of like long-term making it to the end and
mhm.
winning, he needs to be doing a little bit more.
Yeah, I feel like he's kind of put himself in the spot Masterfy was in earlier in the beginning of the week, where he's like the easy pawn, where
Hmm.
everyone's just kind of like nobody has super strong connections with George except like one
Yeah.
person. So if he's the easy pawn to put up, um, and yeah, it'll be.
I could definitely see that, and you definitely don't want to be compared to Masterfy's early game. So I hope George can like wake
Right?
up because
Yeah,
he kind of feels like he's fallen asleep.
yeah. I
I hope
have.
he can wake up
Yeah,
and pick himself back up.
yeah, he could definitely become a perpetual pawn because people also perceive him as like, oh, everyone likes George from those earlier weeks. People be like, oh,
Hmm.
if I put my target next to George, my target's guaranteed to go home. And when we have a house that's split with two factions warring, that could end up getting George caught in the crosshairs if things go wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's that's the main kind of stuff. Anything else about this week or any other players we want to talk about?
Did we want to talk about winner picks if they've changed or not?
Well, I was gonna talk a bit about what's gonna happen next week because I feel like
Oh.
that very much impacts of what I think's gonna happen and like my winner picks. But next week is
they
our
have
twist week. I'm
they
very
have no
I
clue
have no
what's
clue.
about to happen.
Right? No idea. They were
They're not prepared.
they're not. They were all speculating that this week was gonna be the double eviction or whatever, and I was like, nope, it's gonna be next week, and it's gonna be in a way you don't expect at all. um,
Little different.
yeah. So I think I again went over this last week, but I'll go over it again just as a refresher. Oliver has won HOH, and so as HOH, instead of nominating two people, he's going to save two people. And then the remaining five will then participate in the veto. The winner of the veto will be safe, and they'll get to pick one other person to be safe, leaving three people on the block. Everyone then is going to vote to save instead of evicting. Again, reversing the power. And then the person with the most votes is going to stay, and the other two are going to be evicted. Um, and so I think this is. I kind of went back and forth in my head. It's like, is this better for Oliver or worse for Oliver than a typical HOH week? And I think it's kind of worse because he's gonna piss five people off because he's gonna only save two,
Yeah.
and he's kind of in good with everyone. And I think most people expect Oliver to save them, especially the big three. I think they're gonna expect
Yeah. Like
Oliver to save to
everybody in
them.
their everyone in their DRs when it was announced that Oliver won was like, "Yes, I'm so happy. Like
Yeah,
I'm in good with Oliver." And
yeah.
yeah.
So Oliver's gonna have to really show his cards and show who he's most closely aligned with, and that's really going to
Mhm.
expose him, especially since he's been so
Yeah.
under the radar these last few weeks.
He did not mean to win this HOH and he definitely did not need to.
Yeah.
This could go really
Well,
bad for him.
I don't necessarily. I think he might have needed to because I think if another person would have won it, I think he had the potential to be collateral damage in it, him or Masterfy, because they, other than themselves, Masterfy and Oliver aren't the closest with anybody else. Because I feel like if like George, Dominic, or Taylor would have won, they would have all saved each other, and then if one of the big three won, they would have saved each other, and so that would
Yeah.
force Oliver and Masterfy to be in the veto. And who knows if they would have won that or not,
Probably not win.
right?
I don't think either of them have won a competition besides this HOH,
Yeah,
right?
especially considering this next POV is going to be a lot more of a physical comp that I feel like Donnie might win. Um, Yeah, I don't. I think they would have ended up on the block together, and one of them for sure would have gone home. So I feel like this may ruin Oliver's game, but it could have also saved Oliver from going home.
Yeah, it just depends on what he does with it and
Yeah,
what ends up happening.
exactly. But yeah, let's talk
I
about.
thought,
Hmm,
sorry, I
uh,
thought your prediction for like what will happen during the power reversal was pretty good. Like,
yeah, um, yeah,
if you wanted to talk about that.
yeah, sure, yeah. I think that Dominic Oliver's gonna save Dominic and Masterfy, because he has that final two with Masterfy since like week 1 or 2, and they've been pretty close and strong for a while now. And then they just created an alliance with Dominic this week called the Triple Riders, and those three seem to be getting pretty close. And Oliver and Masterfy have kind of been talking about potentially flipping on the big three and getting one of them out because they're such big competitors that they're like, we can't win against them if they continue going with that 5-star alliance. So they're like, we need to get one of them out sooner than later if we want to have a chance of winning. So I think it makes the most sense for Oliver to say Masterfy and Dominic because of that alliance over someone in the big three alliance. And then Donnie has shown that he's a big comp beast and is really good at those physical comps. And this next power veto is going to be ready, set, whoa, which is you're running and jumping down a lane to press a button. And I feel like Donnie might be pretty good at that. So Donnie would win. I see him saving Star because that's kind of his closest ally. And that will leave Landry, Taylor, and George on the block. And then I think obviously Star and Donnie would vote to save Landry, but then I think Masterfy and Dominic would vote to save George, and then Oliver would be the tie-breaking vote there, and I think he would end up saving George to send Landry and Taylor home ultimately. But we'll see if I was right or not. I'm very interested to see it. If Taylor could somehow pull out a miraculous veto win again, that'd be great. But I don't see that happening in this competition.
I mean, that would be great, but who would they even save?
George probably because the rest are the big three, right? So,
Yeah.
but I think it's more likely that George could pull out a comp win. George has yet to win a competition, so maybe just like Taylor last week, no comp wins, and then pulls out one when they needed the most. I could see
Come
George
on,
doing that,
George, build that resume.
right? I would love to see that happen with George. But I don't know if I guess George would save Taylor. I think. But I am kind of concerned because Dominic and George seem to have this reoccurring trend of trusting people who just put them up on the block as a replacement nominee. Because after the whole Landry incident and Landry having this house meeting, George was like, I feel really good with Landry because she made me feel like safe despite her. And I'm like, but she just put you up. Like,
Yeah.
but yeah, he was like,
Interesting.
she went to bat with me for that whole house meeting and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, you're clearly at the bottom of her list if she's okay with putting you up.
Yeah.
So,
She went to bat for you for now.
right? I wouldn't even say she went to bat for you. She was more so pointing the gun at Spencer.
Yeah, like what happens when Spencer and Taylor are gone?
Exactly.
You're next.
Right.
Like,
This is exactly what
yeah.
happened with Star and Dominic week 1. Dominic's like, "Oh yeah, I feel really good with Star," but like, why? Star.
I know. I love Dominic and George, but that might be their fatal flaw.
Yeah, I think they don't. I think they have really bad reads on the structures of the house. Compared to Taylor,
Unfortunately.
I think Taylor's so smart. They are very much catch on. Like they were catching on to the 5-star alliance because those 5 were in the HOHVC talking, and they were kind of like, I think that might be a thing. And they were also the first to catch on to the big 3 being a thing. Like they are very smart. Very good reads on the house. They quickly saw through Landry during week 1 when she was like socializing with everybody, being like, "Yeah, I got your back." But yeah, they have really good reads on the house. So it will be sad if they do go this week because I think they're just a really good player who got caught in unfortunate
Yeah.
circumstances.
I mean, if they don't go this week, somehow it's gonna happen eventually.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, I really don't see them
yeah,
getting to the end.
they are fighting an uphill battle, which makes me so sad. But yeah. Anyways, speaking of making it to the end, let's talk about our winner picks. So I think this week I want to say Masterfy has he just each week he continues putting himself in a better and better position, and with Oliver
Mhm.
being HOH going into this week, like he's gonna be the number one person Oliver wants to keep safe unless Oliver
Yeah.
wants to like hide that duo and do some weird stuff like that, but I think that'd be too risky and dumb for them to do. So hopefully Oliver isn't dumb. Um, but I think Masterfy, he's playing the middle. Nobody's targeting him. He's letting the other two duke it out, and he's helping switch the power balance when one side gets too powerful. So I think he's has a good chance at making it to the end and riding this middle.
Yeah, this little civil war between like the big three and the Enderman was so good for him
Yeah.
and Oliver,
Mm-hmm.
but especially Masterfy. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, as you said, he's definitely playing both sides, and I
Yeah.
don't see him being a target anytime soon. I could definitely see him like just not floating, but
Yeah.
not
Like
being a target until the
yeah.
end.
Yeah. He's really good. And with creating all this alliances, like I think he has a good resume kind of built up despite him not seemingly doing anything. He's doing a lot
Mhm.
behind the scenes. So,
He's definitely been like actively playing every week.
mm-hmm.
But it's funny that we bring him up for winner picks now because I think like in week one we were
Yeah.
like, okay, who's not going to win? And we're like,
Master.
Landry,
Yeah,
Masterfy.
Masterfy. Yeah. uh
Which that's pretty cool how he was able to just completely
yeah,
turn that around.
exactly. And I think it's funny now how he one of his closest alliances is with Oliver and Dominic because initially Dominic was the person who's like maybe we should get out Masterfy this week instead. But yeah, he's really turned things around, and I think he has a great story, so I'm very
Yeah.
interested to see him make it to the end. Um, Other than that, it's really hard to tell because it depends on who gains power, who controls it, of who wins it. But I think Dominic has a pretty good chance. Donnie's started to catch on to Dominic, but the rest of the big three were kind of like, nah. Um,
Yeah, Donnie's like really the only one who's like
mhm.
actively focusing on Dominic as a
Yeah.
target. Everyone else is kind of focused on different things.
Hmm.
Yeah, I've always said I see Dominic making it to the end
Yeah,
and probably winning.
exactly. I think so too. Um, I have always also said that Star is kind of the Dominic of the big three, where he's like nobody's really looking at him as the main one. It's mainly Landry and Donnie. Everyone else is looking at as the big targets there. So I feel like Star could potentially have a good setup. But
Yeah,
I
like our two winner picks are definitely Masterfy and Dominic, but I feel like Star is an honorable mention
yeah, for sure.
because yeah, they're just positioned really well, and I think people really like them.
Yeah,
So
yeah. But they did kind of miss out on some vital socializing this session, which I think might put them a little behind, um, especially compared to Masterfy and Dominic. But I have no doubt that they'll be able to pick up the slack in this next week. But yeah, I'm very. I just. I want to like flip to the last chapter to see who wins because I'm just
I know.
everyone's playing such an interesting game, and I'm so excited to see how it plays out for everybody. Um,
I
but
love this season and I never want it to end, but I also want it to end tomorrow so I can see what happens.
exactly. Oh my god. But yeah. It, if Landry and Taylor do leave next week, I think that would be so funny after they like had their
So
whole
funny.
after they had their whole feud and then they leave together. But I'd also be devastated
Those yeah.
because those are
Those
my
two are yeah, our favorites,
yeah.
but I think if they do have to leave, leaving together would be so funny.
It would be. If we have to lose them, if we lose them at the same time, that would be just so iconic.
Yeah.
The eviction interview with them together, that'd be so funny.
Oh my god. Spencer would be gagged seeing them walk in right after him.
The jury house meeting.
Oh, that's so funny.
Oh my
You
god.
know what we should do is we should get like Spencer in a VC and then like not tell him
That
anything
would be
that's
great.
happened
That is
and
my
then be
hope.
like, juror number one,
Right?
walk in, and
Oh my
then
god.
like Taylor joins and he's like,
Right?
and then Landry joins and he's like,
Right? Oh my god. Yeah, I'm so. Oh my god, I'm looking forward to this, and looking forward to how everything plays out. But I think that's everything that we have to cover this week. Awesome.
And speaking of Spencer,
Oh,
we're gonna
yeah, we're gonna interview him
interview him.
at a later date.
Yeah.
You'll we will insert interview clip here. Future Crow or Cade probably because Cade's gonna probably
Probably
be
Cade.
editing this. um,
See what he has to
yeah.
say.
Let's see what Spencer has to say.
I really want to ask him about that conversation with Donnie. Like, what were you doing, Spencer?
Yeah.
Spencer, what are you doing? Chilling.
Right. Spencer, we finally want a response from you. Oh my god. When he sits in silence for us, then what?
Okay, Ryan.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Anyways, well, thank you everybody. We will see you next week after Christmas. Goodbye.